Thanks for the ride. I'll see you around.
We need air support now. Stand down. We don't got time for hero bullshit.
Don't worry, I got this.
Hello and welcome to another video review. Yes, it's time for me to finally talk about what I once considered one of my most anticipated games, I guess, of this year. One that has been delayed, and I thought maybe it would be delayed out of 2022, and if I'm being honest, after playing it, should have been delayed out of 2022, and that is the reboot of Saints Row. Wow, I have a lot to say about Saints Row. I'm gonna just off the top tell you it's not a good video game. And if you were looking forward to playing Saints Row, even from the trailers, I would honestly tell you, if you really have to play this game, wait until Black Friday. I guarantee you it's going to be half off at that point, and $30 is a great asking price for this game. And hopefully by then there's some patches to clean up some of the glitches in this game. I will also point out at the top of this review that, well, a lot of critics pan this game for a ridiculous amount of glitches. I didn't experience nearly as many as a lot of critics did, so I truly believe that there's a day one patch that came with this game that the critics didn't have. However, I didn't have a way to check that because when I installed the game on my Series X, it installs everything as one update package because they're giving you, the smart delivery package, so to speak. So it doesn't really identify if there was a day one patch or not, as far as I'm aware. But my assumption is that there probably was some sort of patch that critics didn't have, because a lot of the shit they described I did not see. But I definitely saw some glitches, and the easiest way I can describe Saints Row 2022 is it is Mass Effect Andromeda for the Saints Row franchise. Basically what Volition did here was they took everything you know about Saints Row off the board. Saints Row, and if I can go back in the time machine here for a minute, Saints Row launched in 2006 as kind of a San Andreas clone, but the biggest thing about it is it had online co-op, which was really cool, and you also create your own character. So it's not a predefined character like, CJ in San Andreas that, you can control his weight, like he can get fat or skinny. This is a character you can choose male or female, top to bottom you create this fucking character, and that's how the game works, okay? And for the most part, Saints Row, the original, plays it straight. It's not very comedic. It's very much a San Andreas clone, and that's fine. It takes place in the city of Steelport, as all four of those games do. I don't think that it was a bad game. Going back to it today is pretty rough, because I did revisit all of them before I did my review of this, although I didn't capture any footage of them. I don't know. I had this fascination with, they were all on this dirt ass cheap sale for $250, so I bought all of them just to test them out and see, and how they run today and stuff. And Saints Row 1 is probably the hardest to go back to. Saints Row 2 is where it got a little more interesting. The game kind of developed a little bit more of its own identity. It started to implement humor into the serious tone of the game. It also started to really showcase specific characters. You had a Johnny Gat in the first game, but these characters really started to show themselves. And Saints Row 2, fantastic game. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing co-op in it. I played co-op in it when it came out, and then back in 2013, right before Saints Row 4, I went back with a buddy and we replayed that entire game in co-op on 360. And I had a fun time doing that. I don't know if I could do that today because the game's kind of rough, but again, it's a fantastic fucking Saints Row game. Saints Row 3, or Saints Row the Third as it's called, is easily the best in the franchise. This is where I think that everything kind of clicked and came together. You had the best writing. You had a really good character arcs with each one of the characters. They're all unique, and that's one of the most important things that I can say when comparing this to Saints Row 2022 is, when I think back, and this was 10 fucking years ago, I can still tell you about characters like Johnny Gat, Kinsey, Shaundi. After playing 25 hours of Saints Row 2022, I have a really hard time remembering the characters' names in this game because they're all fucking forgettable, and some of them are just kind of terrible. And we're going to talk about that in this review today. But if you've never played a Saints Row game, there's a pretty solid remaster of it that came out, I want to say either last year or the year before, so you can play it on next-gen machines. I'd highly recommend doing that instead of playing this. You can get it for like a fraction of the cost of this one, and you're going to have a way better time. Sure, some elements of it might be dated, but I think the balance of humor and serious tone really made that game stand out, and it made it its own franchise, instead of just being a GTA clone. And then, of course, Saints Row 4 took it to the extreme. You became the president of the United States, you're fighting an alien invasion, you're going into a simulator like the Matrix, you have superpowers, there's a fucking dubstep gun. It's a fun game. I really enjoyed it. I like kind of the orb collecting crackdown element to it, but if I had to pick my favorite, it's always going to be Saints Row 3. And then there was a spin-off expansion type thing called Get Out of Hell. I actually did not ever play that. I'm not really interested in it. So that's kind of my history with Saints Row. And then obviously Volition decided to kind of take a break from it, and they made Agents of Mayhem, which we all know was a commercial failure. I've dabbled a little bit in this game, but I always felt that it would have been a great co-op game, but for whatever reason, it doesn't have co-op. I will say, after playing Saints Row 2022, I actually want to go back and play Agents of Mayhem. I have a weird, fascination with taking a look at that game now more seriously than I did a couple years ago. With that out of the way, Saints Row 2022, it's bad. Even putting aside the glitches, the fact that it seems like they have a new engine here, but the engine is not able to grasp certain things in the game. So you have situations like there's all sorts of lighting bugs. There's situations where certain things will get brighter than they should. I had a situation where I was playing a mission and climbing this scaffolding, and out of nowhere it was like a meteor hit or something, and it just washed out the entire screen. It was insane. And it stayed like this for a good 10 minutes. I literally thought that my game was broken, and then all of a sudden it just was like somebody hit a light switch. There's so many fucking glitches in this game that I've seen, but again, none of them really broke my game. The only time I had a glitch that broke my game, I had to reload a save, was I went to throw a grenade, and when I threw it, it disabled all the face buttons on my controller, so I couldn't jump, I couldn't shoot correctly. Well, the shooting's a trigger, but it disabled that too. I couldn't shoot, I couldn't jump, I couldn't change weapons, nothing worked. The only thing I could do is hit start and reload my save, and that's what I had to do. I didn't lose that much progress, but imagine if I did, I'd be fucking pissed. So, that was really the only game-breaking glitch. Everything else that I saw was typical standard stuff. You see your character clip through the world. I had a good one where myself and one of my homies were supposed to get into a car. I go to get in the car, his character model freezes in the street, but then another character model of him just pops in the car, and then the character model that's on the street just kind of slowly fades and disappears. That's kind of weird. Stuff like that, but never game breaking other than that one, game breaking thing I had. Another thing to note about this game, it has 7 fucking performance modes on Series X. That's where I played the game. The only one I would recommend, because this is how I played the game, and for the most part it was okay, because I have an LG C1 which has VRR, so turning that on kind of smooths out the frame rate issues, but the game does not have a locked frame rate. It targets 60, and most of the time, if you have a VRR TV with that enabled, it can hit that pretty well. Cutscenes are kind of where it takes a hit, and you'll notice just a kind of a shimmering effect because the game just isn't updating correctly. That's a struggle, but this game has 7 performance mode. It has 3 1080p modes, including 2 RTX modes, 2 1440p modes. One is a high frame rate, one's high quality, and then you have a full 4K one, which is just 30 frames, and it just looks atrocious. Visually it looks good until you move the camera. So if you want to play this game, you're like me, play it on 1440p mode with high frame rate, and that's probably the best way to play it. Hopefully in the future they can patch those modes so it'll be better. But again, even if you put all the glitches aside, and this was where my heart kind of sunk on the game, it is the characters, the writing, and the story of this game that are really just fucking awful. And it's heartbreaking because this is a franchise that I love, and to see the same team or the same developer just fuck this up horribly is ridiculous. It's almost like they were afraid of the humor they once had in the game, so they try to play it safe. And then by playing it safe, they go, well, the game is rated M, how do we keep it as an M rating? And they go, well, just say fuck a lot. And there are sequences in this game where your character will just curse like they have Tourette's. And they'll pause and then they'll curse more. And they'll pause and they'll curse more. It's really awkward. I thought it was a glitch in the game. It happened twice. It just doesn't make sense, and that's not how you class up the game with an M rating, I guess I would say. It's awful in that terms. But even the characters, and this was another problem I have, it's almost like, and I don't want to get political on here. I don't have a problem with these characters following these stereotypes, but they're too far into the stereotype game. So what I mean by that is you have one character, I'm not going to remember. I'm going to try and remember names. I might butcher one of them. You have the Michelle Rodriguez type. She's basically a getaway driver. She's part of a gang, okay? You have, I believe the character's name is Kevin. It's important to note that Kevin is what I would call the player character. He probably would have been played by Pierce, like in the last one, but to modernize it rather than just be like, well, he's a player, he just sleeps with a lot of women, they made him bisexual. And so they make jokes the whole game. Oh, he's sleeping with all these men and women, and like that's their idea of modernizing it, I guess. Not that I have a problem with that, but like it just, I don't know, it just didn't click for me. And then my favorite stereotype in the game is like, you ever watch any mafia movie, any gangster movie, you always have the bookkeeper who doesn't want to touch guns. And they totally have that stereotype in this game. I want to say the character's name was Eli. And that's totally his character. He's a bookkeeper. He don't want to touch guns. He doesn't like the violence aspect. He likes the numbers aspect. Again, these are all clear-cut stereotypes that you see in any one of these. Their ways to modernize them are, ridiculous to me in some ways. And I think that's part of the reason why the characters kind of turned me off, but none of them are written interestingly. One of my biggest problems with the game is one of the characters they tried to give a cool backstory to is the Michelle Rodriguez character. I cannot remember her name, so we're just going to refer to her as Michelle Rodriguez because that's who they're going after here. She has a getaway car that she got from her mother, and in like midway point of this game, this is a spoiler I suppose, but she loses that car. When your whole like group of 4 people decide to form their own gang, her previous gang gets pissed off, and the gang leader takes that car and throws it off of a cliff. And you kind of get this like sad sequence where I'm like, oh, they're gonna actually like do something. What if I told you they never fucking go back to this story in the game? It's like they just left that plot line. So, like, why put that in the game and then just abandon it? Is it DLC later? I don't even think so. I think it's just they rushed this game to get it out August 23rd so they could hit this game out before any major holiday titles came out. So, it's weird. And then my other problems with the story are it's very simple. So when the game starts, like I said, each one of your characters, you have Kevin. He works for the Idols, which is like the DJ gang. You have the Michelle Rodriguez character. She works for like the Gangbanger, like MC Mayans type group of gangbangers. So you have 2 of your 3 like roommates are in gangs, and then the third guy, the numbers guy, he's not in a gang. And then you have yourself. You're actually starting to work for a private military corporation. They're called the Marshals. And then all of a sudden one day you guys decide, well, we got to pay rent and student debt. Let's just go rob a loan place. And you literally just go rob a loan place. And then after that, your character's like, shit, we're really good at this. We should start our own gang. That's how your gang is started. You go and you get property, you get a church, and when you walk in, there's like an angelic, you know, one of those angelic backgrounds, like the cathedral glass has an angel in it, and then on the floor there's the Saints logo. And she goes, I think we'll call our group the Saints. And it's important to note, there's no references to any of the other games in this game. This is a complete reboot. So Stillwater, all that stuff never happened. Stillwater, Stillport, none of that never happened. This is just a reboot of Saints fucking Row. It just spirals out of control from there. And again, spoilers, but I'm really trying to prove the point here. This game is not worth anyone's time. The other problem I have with the game is the story just kind of ends, but it's so full of tropes that it hits it on the nose, literally. So in the beginning of the game, when you work for the private military corporation, you capture someone for them. Midway through the game, when you're, you know, with your own gain, you decide, hey, we're gonna break that person out and have them work with us against the Marshall PMC group because they're one of the gains, quote unquote, that you're trying to take down. Okay, cool. So then towards the end of the game, this specific character literally, this is a cutscene in the game, literally fucking stabs you in the back and says, nah, I'm gonna take over your group now. And then there's this weird dream sequence. Saints Row 3 and 4 had some incredible dream sequences. This game's dream sequence fucking sucks, and it goes on way too long. But when you wake up, you literally dig yourself out of your own grave and you go save your friends, because the whole motivations of that bad guy in this game is that he wants friends of his own. That's it. That is his motivation, not to start a criminal empire, to have friends of his own. I can't think of anything written that's more lame than that. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So the story of this game fucking sucks. And that's how it ended too. That was the thing. I didn't even realize it was the end of the game. And then like it just kind of rolled credits. I'm like, oh wow, that's it for the story. So in 25 hours, I got the story done. I got a portion of the side stuff done. A game that I'm probably going to try and get everything done in just because, and then I'm probably honestly never going to play it again. You know, what's going to happen with Saints Row as a franchise? Like, fuck if I know. I don't see them doing another sequel with these characters. They'd probably have to reboot again, or maybe even just do a Saints Row 5 and bring back all the characters you know. I don't know. I would have rather seen that at this point. I was on board with the idea of a reboot until I played it. So, again, and the other thing I'll say is, like, Saints Row has always been known for having incredible and goofy weapons. I think that's one thing that Volition does really well, is they create these crazy out there weapons that you're just unique and not used to in a video game. Saints Row 2022 doesn't have a single weapon that I thought was unique or creative. It's like one of the most creatively bankrupt games I have ever played. The world itself is kind of fun to explore because it's a new environment, but it just wears thin because the objectives and the side missions are whatever. The only thing I'll say about side missions is that this is probably the best version of insurance fraud they've ever had in a Saints Row game, which I think is cool. Like, now when you hit cars after a certain point, they'll start blowing up and you can chain these sequences, and I think that's really cool. That's also the one time where I'm like, I understand why the frame rate's tanking, but that's the only side mission, side hustle, whatever you want to call it, thing that I enjoyed in this game. Everything else I've played has just been fetch missions, and that's lame. So, what am I giving Saints Row 2022? I'm giving it a D. I don't think it's worth your time. I don't think you should pay $60 for it. I'd say, honestly, if you're hell-bent, if you're a classic Saints Row fan, you want to see what they're doing, pay the $30 on Black Friday or whatever it is. I guarantee it'll be $30. I'd be shocked if it wasn't. Pay the money for it then and then play it. Maybe wait for it to come to Game Pass or the PlayStation version of Game Pass, whatever they end up doing. I feel like it's going to hit one of these services because it's not going to make the sales that they were expecting, and that will boost that. So it'd be a great Game Pass game that I would say, well, you know what, you can at least try it. I super see it hitting one of these services by the end of the year. I really honestly do. Maybe wait and see if it hits that, but don't spend $60 on it. And honestly, unless you're a curious classic Saints Row fan, if you're somebody that's new to the franchise, go buy Saints Row the 3rd on sale for like $10 and enjoy that and play that. Don't bother with this game. So D is my final rating for Saints Row 2022. I'd love to know in the comments below, have you played Saints Row? Do you like Saints Row? Do you hate this game like I do? I should say, do you like this game? Do you dislike this game? Do you think it's disappointing? That's how I came off of it. I'd love to know in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.